Guys, what's going on? I hope you guys are well. I hope you guys are staying safe. I want to get straight into it. I want to talk about something that I've seen on Talk Sport. Mr. Mark Tibbs, the trainer of Billy Joe Saunders, the new trainer of Daniel Dubois, has come out and said that Billy Joe Saunders has similar boxing IQ to Floyd Mayweather. He says that he's really fast to feet. He's got very fast hands. He's got one of the best boxing brains in boxing. He's got one of the best boxing IQs in boxing. And that will help him to beat Canelo Alvarez. Now, I know that obviously Mark Tibbs is going to be biased because Mark Tibbs is obviously the trainer of Billy Joe Saunders. And obviously he's going to be pumping up the chances of his fighter going out there and pulling off what would be probably one of the best wins from a British fighter ever, and be a huge upset on a global scale, because nobody would be giving Billy Joe Saunders much of a chance. Now, I've come under criticism, some of my subscribers and, maybe not my subscribers, just guys that have come across my video, saying that I'm being a bit harsh on Billy Joe Saunders. I'm not giving him much of a chance, and by me saying that that Billy Joe Saunders hasn't got a chance in this fight, I'm coming across as a casual. For me, Billy Joe Saunders has got a chance, but it's a very, very slim one. Very, very slim one. The only chance that Billy Joe Saunders has in this fight is of beating the brakes of Canelo. That's how he's going to win, because I can't see him stopping Canelo, right? He's going to have to go in there and put in a Mayweather-esque performance. Now, if his trainer is right in what he's saying, then that might be possible, right? Because Mark Tibbs is saying that Billy Joe Saunders has the same boxing IQ as Floyd Mayweather. What do you guys make of that? For me, personally, that's absurd. That's absurd. I've seen Billy Joe Saunders only school one guy in his whole career. I've seen him outclass one top-level fighter, and that's David Lemieux. And to be honest, David Lemieux is a limited fighter. Right now, if we were to look at David Lemieux standing in the 168 or even the 168-pound division, he's nowhere amongst the top guys. He's a limited fighter as far as I'm concerned. He was a big puncher, but very, very poor footwork, and very poor in general. He's not the greatest fighter out there. But putting that on one side, if you look at the other top fights he had with Eubank, split decision. Andy Lee, majority decision, a close fight. Some of the other fights that he's had, Akolov, some people thought he lost. The YouTube guy was beaten. The guy on the YouTube undercard fight that he had, he was losing that fight, and then he found a knockout punch. He's not really looked that impressive in a lot of his fights, let's be honest. Now, all of a sudden, his fans and his fanboys think that, he's going to raise his game to the point where he's going to be able to beat the brakes of Canelo. I beg to differ. Listen, I don't see him beating Canelo, and that's not me hating on Billy Joe Saunders. He's a good fighter, but I don't see him beating Canelo Alvarez. I don't know what people don't understand. That's not hating. That's just giving an opinion on what I've seen in Billy Joe Saunders' career so far. Stylistically, you can say what you want. Canelo style will cause Billy Joe Saunders a lot of trouble. Boxer, punches very hard, who's also great at cutting off the ring. Billy Joe Saunders, for me, isn't an elite fighter. He hasn't proven that to me, proven that to anyone, really. If we're honest, he hasn't beaten anybody that makes you, say, wow. Andy Lee was a majority decision. Chris Eubank was a split decision. For me, those are the two best guys he's been in the ring with. Lemieux was all right, but I don't rate Lemieux that highly, if I'm honest with you. I think Eubank would beat Lemieux. I think many fighters would beat Lemieux. I don't rate Lemieux like that, So the only reason it was a good win is because of the fact that many people thought that Billy Joe Saunders would get beat by David Lemieux, just because Billy Joe Saunders was unknown commodity abroad, and that's why it was a good win, because he was an underdog amongst a lot of the fans over across the pond. But really, anybody that had seen David Lemieux and seen him being beat up by Gennady Golovkin could clearly see the man wasn't a great boxer. You know, he got outboxed and played with by Golovkin, and Golovkin then took him out in about 7 rounds. So anybody that's seen David Lemieux in the past knew that he was a big puncher, but a very limited fighter with limited boxing ability. So it's not a surprise somebody with Billy Joe Saunders' style schooling Lemieux like he did. So I wasn't surprised, because Billy Joe Saunders' style is all wrong for Lemieux. But it's, again, Canelo's a different fighter, a different level of fighter. Canelo would destroy Lemieux like Golovkin destroyed Lemieux. It wouldn't be a fight. You know, that fight wouldn't go 5-6 rounds for me. So Billy Joe Saunders doing what he did to Lemieux is I think it's quite predictable. Saunders is a better fighter than David Lemieux. You know, Lemieux's just a bigger puncher, but a bigger puncher that can't land. You know, you get guys like Marcus Maidana who are big punchers, but Marcus Maidana finds a way to land those punches. He's very determined, iron-willed. Like he's got a lot of. He's a lot more than just a big puncher. He pressures you. He puts you in uncomfortable positions. He did it with Amir Khan. He did it with Floyd Mayweather. He did it with a lot of top fighters. He was able to put them in uncomfortable positions. Unfortunately, David Lemieux isn't like that. David Lemieux is a guy that if you come and fight with him, if you come and have a toe-to-toe with him, his big punches will land and possibly knock you out. But anyone with any kind of boxing ability, Lemieux ain't landing those punches. Lemieux ain't landing those punches. Danny Jacobs, Charlo, Andrade, any other top fighters would school and beat up David Lemieux, right? Simple as that. And so what Billy Joe Saunders did to him wasn't surprising to me. It wasn't surprising. I can see why it was seen as such an impressive performance, because of the fact that Billy Joe Saunders was unproven, really, at top level. Even though he had a win against Andy Lee, it was a majority decision, Eubank split decision. He hadn't really had an impressive win at top level. So that's why I can understand why people were so impressed. But again, his resume right now, I've said a lot of the times that his resume is fairly weak still. He's still got a lot of proving to do. And this fight against Canelo is, for me, is going from a certain level of fighters. A lot of British fighters did this. Kell Brook did this, fighting lower level competition and then jumping up against the elite. Usually, if you look at the history, it doesn't work out very well. Very few fighters, Tyson Fury is one that springs to mind, fighting poor level competition and then jumping up against the elite and winning. But again, those heavyweights of Klitschko and Wilder aren't as good as Canelo. Canelo's a way better fighter. He's got a better chin. He's got better boxing IQ. He punches hard. He's a complete fighter. So I don't see how Billy Joe Saunders wins. It doesn't matter what you say about his feet or his boxing ability. Canelo's a different level of fighter. I don't think a lot of you, this is what I said in my previous video when I made Crawford, a lot of you are fanboys. So you view it, a lot of you, when you're speaking about calling me a casual, a lot of you are seeing it from a fanboy point of view because you want Billy Joe Saunders to win. There's a difference. I don't care who wins. If Billy Joe Saunders wins, that's great on him. I'll applaud him after, doing my post-fight. But I'm just being real. I'm just seeing looking at it from a neutral standpoint, I don't see it. I don't see it because I've seen how good Canelo is. I've seen how much he's improved. I see his attributes and I see Billy Joe Saunders' attributes. And I've seen how he struggled against Andy Lee. I see how he struggled against Chris Eubank. I've seen how he struggled against the guy on the YouTube undercard. Now, see, a lot of you, his fanboys are clinging on to the fact that he's undefeated and he's never been beat before. But who against who, though? He struggled against guys that wouldn't last 2 rounds with Canelo. The guy that he fought on the YouTube undercard wouldn't last a round with Canelo. Andy Lee would get knocked out in 4 or 5 rounds against Canelo. Eubank wouldn't go 6, 7 rounds against Canelo. Lemieux would get knocked out by Canelo. So all these guys that you keep talking about, you keep saying styles make fights and Billy Joe Saunders' style, we'll see. We'll see. I don't see it. I just don't think Billy Joe Saunders is going to be able to outbox Canelo. And that's what he's going to have to do. And he's not going to just have to outbox him. He's going to have to beat him from pillar to post to get that decision. And I don't see him doing that. But again, let's see. I wish him all the best. I hope he goes out there and beats Canelo. I'd love to see it. Changing of the guard. I don't see it, though. Because Canelo has improved so much. Canelo's head movement is on another level. Like, he's so fast. He's like, it's hard to hit him. Callum Smith is right. He's hard to hit. Canelo is hard to hit. And Billy Joe Saunders is going to be made to miss in that fight. Right? He's going to be made to miss. I'm telling you. Canelo will make Billy Joe Saunders miss in that fight. He will make him miss. And then I think you'll realize how good Canelo is. Because Canelo, for me, is a complete fighter. Billy Joe Saunders isn't a complete fighter like Canelo. He's one-dimensional. The only way he can win this fight is one way. That's boxing. He can't walk him down. Canelo could look to box Billy Joe Saunders. If that doesn't work, he'll look to pressure him, right? He can become a pressure fighter. So Canelo can win this fight by boxing. He can win this fight by pressuring him. He's a big puncher. He's a good boxer. He's got great defense. He's a complete fighter. Billy Joe Saunders can only fight one way this fight. The only way Billy Joe Saunders can win this fight is by looking to box on the outside and look to box Canelo. Box his head off. He can't look to go toe-to-toe with him. He can't look to pressure him. You know, Canelo can do all of that. Canelo can look to go in the center of the ring and box Billy Joe Saunders. Canelo can look to walk Billy Joe Saunders down, pressure him. He can do that as well. You know, Canelo can do a lot. Billy Joe Saunders can only do one thing, right? And if that doesn't work, he's in big trouble. Just say it right. Billy Joe Saunders' only strategy of boxing on the back foot doesn't work. Then what does he do? What's plan B? Is plan B going toe-to-toe with Canelo? Because if that happens, he's going to get knocked out in a round. You know, as soon as he does that, he's going to get knocked out right away. So how does, if just say Billy Joe Saunders' plan A doesn't work, what does he do then? What's he going to do if boxing on the back foot doesn't work? Like Canelo starts pressuring him and starts putting it on him where Billy Joe Saunders can no longer box because Canelo's pressuring him and making it difficult for him to box and move, cutting off the ring, making Billy Joe Saunders miss. What's Billy Joe Saunders going to do then? Because that's what separates a very good fighter from an elite fighter, is when the guy starts putting you under pressure, how do you adjust? When your plan A isn't working, how do you adjust to go to plan B? And right now, I'm struggling to see what Billy Joe Saunders does if his plan A doesn't work. Because there's a great possibility it doesn't. So how is he going to counteract that if his plan A doesn't work? If what Billy Joe Saunders has been doing throughout his whole career doesn't work against Canelo, how is he going to adjust? That's going to be interesting, because I do feel that that plan A that he does, or what he does against the other fighters, may not work against Canelo. How is he going to adjust? And that's what's going to be interesting. But a lot of his fans don't seem to realize that it's not that easy. It's not that easy to go in there with Canelo and just box his ears off. Lara found that. And let's not forget, Canelo's a completely different beast to when he fought Lara. This is a completely different fighter from the one that we saw against Alexander Lara. This is a completely different Canelo. This is a more confident Canelo. This is a better Canelo for me. You know, he's just completely better. His footwork's better. His defense is better. You know, his hand speed is, in my opinion, improved. He's just a complete fighter. His power is a lot more. He's more powerful. His punch selection has got better. He's just an unbelievable fighter. He's got more. I feel like he's got more ways. You know how they say they got more ways to skin a cat. He's found more ways to skin a cat. He's just an unbelievable fighter. And like I said, I don't see Billy Joe Saunders with the skill set Billy Joe Saunders has got beating him. I just don't, because like I said, I can see Canelo starting to walk Billy Joe Saunders down. As soon as he realizes this guy's punching power isn't going to faze me, he's going to start putting a lot of pressure on him, a lot of physical and mental pressure. And I don't feel Billy Joe Saunders is going to... I think Billy Joe Saunders will make mistakes. I felt Billy Joe Saunders made mistakes against Eubank and Andy Lee, and their skill set is nowhere near Canelo's skill set. Their punching power for me is nowhere near Canelo's punching power. Their boxing ability is nowhere near Canelo's boxing ability. So I feel if they were able to put a dent in Saunders, how is Canelo not going to put a dent in Saunders? I just don't see it. But leave your thoughts. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Subscribe to my Instagram. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. Leave your thoughts in the comment section below, and I'll see you all in the next video. Make sure to smash that like button as well. See you in the next video, guys. Peace.